Hi, I'm Susan Rutledge, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create the design that's on the top left corner of my artboard and then take that design and very quickly make 4 completely different patterns in Adobe Illustrator. I'll begin with the line segment tool, a keyboard shortcut \, and I'll click on the artboard to open the line segment tool options dialog box. I'll type in 4 inches for the length, tab down and type in 0 degrees for the angle and say OK. Then I'm going to change the weight of the stroke to 10 points and press the return key. Now we're going to apply an effect to this line. I'll go up to Effect, down to Distort and Transform, and in the flyout menu I'll choose Zigzag. From the Zigzag dialog box I'm going to type in 1 inch for the size, leave Absolute checked. I'm going to change the number of ridges per segment to 1, change the points to Smooth, and say OK. Then we'll move up to Object, down to Path, and convert that line to an outline stroke. So now it's basically an object instead of a stroke. Now I want to rotate our object. I'll get the Rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, and notice that the rotate ball is centered in the object, but I want to rotate it from this bottom center anchor. So I'm placing my cursor right there on top of the anchor, and I'm going to click, and that's going to move the rotate ball there so that I can rotate from that anchor. I'm going to hold down the Option key to make a copy as I drag, and the Shift key so that as I rotate my object, it snaps in 45-degree increments, and when I see origin 90 degrees, I'm going to release my mouse first and then release my hand off of the Option and the Shift keys. Now, Illustrator was saying origin 90 degrees because I have Smart Guides turned on, and you'll need to turn yours on as well. Go up to View, down to Smart Guides, and click here, or you can just toggle those on and off with the keyboard shortcut Command U. Now with the copied object selected, I'm going to duplicate that move 2 more times. I'll use the Duplicate tool, keyboard shortcut Command D, and I'll do that 1 more time, and I've made now 3 total copies. I'll get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and select all of the design. And I'm going to use the Shape Builder tool, keyboard shortcut Shift M, and remove these outer pieces on the design. Now I'll hold down the Option key, and you see my cursor changes to have a minus sign here, which means Illustrator is going to be removing pieces as I drag over them. So I'm just going to drag across the outer ones here, 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 and here. And then with everything selected, I'll go over to the Properties panel, and in the Pathfinder area, click on the ellipsis for more options, and I'm going to use this Merge Pathfinder tool here along the bottom. It's the 3rd from the left. And get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and now my design is all connected. Now I'm going to rotate this design 45 degrees because I want this pointed part to be pointing straight up. So I'll get the Rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, hold down the Shift key as I drag, and that's going to snap right at 45 degrees, and I'll release my mouse, then release the Shift key. Now I'm going to move to the outline viewing mode, keyboard shortcut Command Y, because the next few steps have got to be very precise and it's easier to see what you're doing in the outline mode. I'll get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and I'm going to turn off the bounding box because it's going to get in my way, keyboard shortcut Shift Command B. And we're going to make a copy of this design, so I'll click on it and hold the Option key down to make a copy, and I'm going to drag up and hold the Shift key down to stay in that same vertical line. And when I've made my copy, I'm going to release my mouse and then take my hand off of the Option and the Shift keys, and I'm going to rotate the design. I'll get the Rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, hold down the Shift key so that I have a 45-degree angle, and release my mouse and then release the Shift key. Get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and here's where I need to be precise. I'm going to drag back down towards that original design. I'll hold the Shift key down, and I want the center of my new design to intersect with the very top anchor of the original design. So you can see the center mark and I'm right about there. And when I get there, Smart Guides says intersect, and I'll release my mouse and then take my hand off of the Shift key. Now I've got to make another copy for the lower part of the design, so I'll hold down the Option key to make the copy and the Shift key to drag in that vertical line. And again, we're looking for the word intersect. I'm right on top of that lower anchor. I'll release my mouse and then take my hand off of the Option and the Shift keys. Now I need the bottom and the top design selected, so I'll hold down the Shift key, and that's going to allow me to select this second one as well. I'll group them, keyboard shortcut Command G, and then I'm going to rotate them. I'll get the Rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, and the Rotate ball is right in between the two of them. I'm going to hold down the Option key to make a copy and the Shift key to drag until I have a 90-degree angle, and then I'm going to release my mouse and then the Option and the Shift keys, and we can move back into the preview mode, keyboard shortcut Command Y. I'll get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and I'm just going to click on the artboard so you can see where we're at. We're almost there, but I want to get rid of some of these little pieces that are filling in the holes. So I'll select the entire object and get the Shape Builder tool, keyboard shortcut Shift M, and once again I'll hold down the Option key to delete pieces, and I'll drag through the opening here, and the opening here, the opening here, and here. If you want, you can zoom in to get a little closer to make sure that you don't get rid of anything that you don't want to get rid of. If you do, you can always undo the move, keyboard shortcut Command Z, and then get the Shape Builder tool and take up where you left off. But we're finished here. I'll get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to take a look, and the design looks perfect. So I'll select the entire design. Go back to the Properties panel in the Pathfinder area, click the ellipsis, and choose the Merge Pathfinder tool again. And now we have our design, and we're ready to create our patterns. I am going to go ahead and turn the bounding box back on, though. Keyboard shortcut Shift Command B, because that makes it easier to scale our design. I'll hold the Shift key down and just drag up, and that's going to make it smaller so I can get it out of the way. And then with the design selected, I'll come up to Object, down to Pattern, and choose Make. Now right away the board changes, and I have the Pattern Options dialog box open so that I can decide exactly how I want to place my design. I'm going to change the tile type here. I'll click on this little pull down menu, and the first pattern we're going to make is a hex by column. So I'll click here, and right away the pattern adjusts to my choice. I'm also going to click on Size Tile to Art, and I'm going to change the horizontal spacing. So I'll select 0, and I'm going to type in -0.25. Now I'm using minus because I want the designs to all be closer together. If I wanted to space them further apart, I would use a positive number. But this is the only change that I'm going to make, so I'll press the return key, and I like the spacing here. The one thing I need to do is click on the design, and we're going to change the color to this deep blue. So I'll click on the blue, and now the entire pattern is changed when I change the color of the design. Let's go ahead and close out of the pattern options and the isolation mode, and I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and drag out a rectangle and apply our new pattern and see how it looks. Well, it's looking pretty much like my sample, except we're going to need to scale the size. So I'll come up to Object, choose Transform, and Scale. And I don't want to scale the size of the rectangle, so I need to uncheck Transform Objects. All I want to do is change the size of the pattern itself. So I can just come over here and I can use my mouse and I can just scroll to whatever size I want. And I think I like it at 55%, so I'll say OK. Now I've only changed the scale on the pattern that's applied to this rectangle. If I create another rectangle, it's going to be back to the original size, and I can scale that one as well. I'll get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and delete this rectangle, and let's make another pattern. I'll click on the design, then go up to Object, down to Pattern, and choose Make. And this time I'll leave the tile type at grid. I'll click on Size Tile to Art, and I'll change the horizontal spacing to -0.25, tab down and change the vertical spacing to a -0.25, and press the return key. But I'm going to do one more thing because I can make other changes to this design. I'm going to select it and I'm going to rotate it. I'll get the rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R. You can see the rotate ball in the center of the design. I'll hold down the shift key as I drag, and I'm just going to drag 45 degrees and release my mouse and then release the shift key. And let's exit out of the pattern options and the isolation mode and get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and see how our new pattern is looking. And the one thing I forgot to do is change the color here, but not to worry. All I have to do is go back and double click on that pattern swatch. I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and select the design, apply the purple color. Click out of the options and the isolation mode, and the color has been changed. Now I can resize this as well. I'll go up to Object, Transform, Scale, and again I'll uncheck Transform Objects. And I actually like the 55% here, so I'm going to just say OK. Now, once you've applied the pattern to an object such as this rectangle, if you want to move the pattern within that rectangle, you can do that as well. I'll get the direct selection tool, keyboard shortcut A, and I'm going to hold down the tilde key, which is in the top left corner of my keyboard. It's right under the escape key. And as I hold that down and move around, you see the rectangle isn't moving, but the pattern itself is. And I can get this centered to where it really looks nice, and then I'll release my mouse, and I think having the pattern centered makes it look so much better. Okay, I'll delete this rectangle and get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, select the design, and come back up to Object, down to Pattern, and choose Make. Now for this one, let's change the tile type to Brick by Row, and then I'll click Size Tile to Art, and for the horizontal spacing I'm going to type in -0.5 and tab down, and for the vertical spacing I'll type in -0.75. You don't have to type in the same values. You can, but just playing with this you'll get a lot of different looks. I'm going to press the return key, and then I'm going to select the design, and I'll change the color to green, and then close out of the pattern options and the isolation mode. Get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and drag out a rectangle and apply our new pattern here. And I think we might want to scale this up a little bit. I'll come up to Object, Transform, Scale. I'll scroll this up with my mouse. I think I'll leave it there and say OK. And I really like that look. Okay, we have one more to make. I'll delete this rectangle, get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, select our design, come up to Object, down to Pattern, choose Make. And for this pattern, we're going to use the grid again. I'll click Size Tile to Art, and I'll change horizontal spacing to -0.5, tab down, change vertical spacing to -0.5, select the design, change the color to, let's look for this hot pink color here, we'll use that one right there, and then close out of the pattern options and the isolation mode, get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, drag out a rectangle and apply the design. And then I'm going to resize this. I'll come up to Object, Transform, Scale. Again, all I'm doing is scrolling with my mouse to change the percentage. Yeah, I think I kind of like that right there. We'll leave it at 73% and say OK. Now I'll close out of the swatches panel as well. Get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. And here's our final pattern, which has turned out looking almost exactly like the sample in the top right corner of my artboard. Now delete this last rectangle and we're left with the 4 patterns which I created using only one design and just changing the pattern options and the colors. But honestly, we've just scratched the surface. There are so many more possible changes that would fill dozens of artboards with patterns, and I encourage you to play around with all of these settings on your own so that you become familiar with the different looks that you can achieve. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you've learned not only how to make a design, but how to make multiple patterns very quickly and very easily in Adobe Illustrator. I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel now and click that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future tutorials, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.